So for loop is used when you know how many times you want to iterate. The iterate means you want to go over and over. You know? So when you know that how many times you want to go over and over, then you say, then you use for loops or for loop. So when we are carrying out for loop, you start with for. I mean, FOR, for. Then the range of time, the actually the number you want to loop, and then the range at which you want to loop it, or the number of time you want to loop it. Now, let's take, for example, you want to print a number 1 to 5. Instead of us now coming to say print 1 or type 1, then another one, print 2, then print again, or and come again, print 3, print 4, print 5, print 6. Now imagine you want to print 1 to 50, and then you now start to type print 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, up to 50. You know, but with for loop, you can say print 1 to 5 using for. So the statement is for number in the range 1 to 6. For number in the range 1 to 6, print number. So it will now start to print the number in the range 1 to 6. Now, let's see. Run this. You're going to see 1, 2, 3. So what is it doing? It is printing for number. This is the number we have. Number 1 to 6. So you now say print number 1 to 6 in the range 1 to 6. The range 1 to 6 means that from range 1 to 6 means that 1 to 5. You know, so in Python, the range 1 to 6 actually means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, but you will not complete the last 6, which is 5. And that's why we have 1, 2, 3. So for each of them, so the range 1 to 6 simply means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 6. But in Python, you won't touch the last one. And that is why each of them is being repeated. So that means after printing the first one, which is print number, is going to print the first one, which is 1, and then goes again, print the second one, 2, 3, up to 6, without you having to manually do print 1, print 2, print 3, and so on and so forth. So similarly, when we want to reach a POC, we want to say, okay, you want to iterate over epochs in model training. When I earlier explained what's epochs in model training, in AI and ML. So you want to change your machine parameter, and you want to add epochs, one epoch to all of them. You know, so we now say for epoch in the range 1 to 5, because the epoch 5 means that you want to give parameters within the range 1 to 5. So we now says for each epochs, add 1. Okay, so epoch is 5. All right, so we now said for the epoch, add 1. So that means we are saying epoch here is 5. So we are saying 5 plus 1 will give us 6. So that means the range is 1 to 6. So that eventually you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because if you leave it as just epoch 5, removing this plus 1, it simply means you are saying 1 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, because you're going to skip the last one. All right, so that's why we added plus 1. So that means for each of the epoch, 1 to 5 is going to print this. It's going to print the training epoch is epoch, which is 5, divided by epochs. All right, now let's see the outputs. So you can see the F string here. So training epoch will give us epoch, which is 5, which will give us epoch for epoch in this range. So each of the epoch is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So epoch, we start with 1 divided by the epochs. The epochs is 5. So he's saying 1 divided by 5, 2 divided by 5, 3 divided by 5, 4 divided by 5, and 5 divided by 6. So, and that's what he's trying to we have in there. Okay. So again, that is the for loop. So we can have another example of for loop here, which says the learning rate is 0.1, is 0.01, is 0.001. Now, learning rate in machine learning is yet another parameters that is used in training your model. You know, so the outcome of your model, the performance of your model, is not a one-way motion. It's not a one-way scenario. There are a lot of parameters that determines the output of your model, and part of it is learning rates. How is your model learning? So if you use a learning rate of 0.1 and it's not giving you the best optional results, you can use a learning rate 0.01. You can use learning rate 0.001, and then you keep changing your learning rate or your parameter until you get the best parameter or until you get the best results. And now we are looping over the learning rates, looping over learning rate. Now you know the language now. So now we are taking them one after the other. So we now say for for LR, that means the learning rates. Inside, that means in learning rates. So this is the learning rates. Okay, this is the learning rate. We now said for LR, each of this is the LR, is the learning rate. Each of this is the learning rates. So we now said for LR, which is individual of this, in the learning rate, this is the actual learning rates. Okay, what should you do? Print testing rates. So that means for each of them, it's going to say testing learning rates, first one, testing learning rates 0.01, testing learning rate 0.001. So what is actually happening here is that it loops over each of them and then generates results. So let's say run this. So it says testing rate 0.1, testing rate 0.01, testing rate 0.001, because the looping here says, okay, loop through individual of what we have here. Okay, loop through individual of what we have here, and then print out this. Okay. Now, if so can we confirm if we are good?
Yes, sir.
Condition. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So please feel free to interrupt if there's anything that doesn't make sense. All right, or there's something that's not clear. Now let's look at something more practical that we can use in a simple day-to-day calculations. All right. Now we want to calculate the total sales, and then we have sales record in form of a list here. We have sales 1,000, maybe $1,000, 1,000 naira. Another says 2,500, another says 1,500. And then the total sales is 0. So we can look through the sales and get the total. How do we do that? We can say for amounts in sales. This is the sales list. And we want to loop through these lists and then add up the values. So we now say for amount in sales, the name of this parameter, of this variable that contains the list is sales. And then the amount is the individual value here 1,000 is amount, 2,500 is amount, 1,500 is amount. Okay, so for amounts inside sales, this is sales and it contains amounts. What should you do? For amount in sales, what should you do? Find the total. Okay, so this is please take note that when we use for loop, we need to end it with double column. Okay, so if you look at what we have here, okay, so in this for you're going to see that we have a double column here. For each loop statement, you must have double column. Is it double column or semicolon? Okay, double column. Then the next loop or the next code is the actual expression, which is okay for amount in sales. What should you do for each of the amount in sales? We should add the total plus amounts. You will see that we have initiated the total to be 0. Okay, so that means for the first one, we have total. This total, oh, no, this total here is 0 because it has been earlier defined here, okay, that total is 0. So here, our total is 0 plus the first iteration, which is amounts. First iteration, which is amounts, is 1,000. So the first one here will be total will now be equal to total, which is 0 plus 1,000. So at the end of this first iteration, the total must have become how much?
1,000, 1,000.
1,000. Great. Thank you so much. So we now go to the next iteration. The next iteration will now be 2,500, which is amount will now be 2,500. Now, at the beginning of the second iteration, the amount here is now 1,000 naira plus the second amount, which is second iteration. The second amount here is 2,500 naira. So it now be 1,000 plus 2,500 naira, giving us 3,500. So that means at the end of the second iteration, the total here is now 3,500 naira. So then we go to the third iteration, which is 1,000, which is 1,500. Okay. And it's now be 3,500, which is the total at the end of the second iteration plus the last amount, which is the third iteration. Okay. That will give us. No, now let's now see. We can just run the code and see what the output will look like. So the output is what we have here because at the beginning of the iteration, the total is 0. So we have 0 plus 1,000. At the second iteration, we have 1,000 plus 2,500, making 35. So at the third iteration, the 35 plus 15 give us 35, giving us 5,000. So this will give us the total sales. So we can also use loop to iterate over lists. So individual of what we have here is a list. We can add them up, we can divide them up. We can say for each iteration, divide. For each of iteration, subtracts, and so on and so forth. So what you can achieve with this is limitless, depending on what you want to achieve. Okay, so I want to challenge you to run this code at your own free time. And then the last one we have here on loop is while loop. The while loop is saying continue to run if condition is true or not true. This was saying. So while loop is to continue to loop until a condition is met. That is a while loop. So continue looping. In this case, we started with for loop. In the for loop, we know when it will end. We know the condition when it's going to end. But in the while loop, the condition can continue to run until it meets a specific condition that will make it to stop. Let's go for example. So we said so in this we said, okay, for epoch and loss, in enumerates. Now, enumerate is yet another concept under loop. So now in the for loop here, we are bringing two parameters or outputs. So that means we are saying, okay, for epoch and loss, there are two things. Epoch and loss in enumerate. And then in brackets, loss values, comma 1. Print, for each of them, print epoch, and for each of them, print loss. Now, if you look at the loss we have here, we have the loss values. Okay, we have the loss values. So for each of the epoch, that means we're going to run epoch, and then we want to see epoch and then loss in enumerate. The enumerate here means that we are having loss values, which is what we have earlier defined here, and then 1. Okay, loss value and 1. So for each of the expression, we're going to see epoch and loss. So that's why we have print epoch and loss. Okay, epoch comma or double column loss. This is how it's going to be expressed because it is a F strings to just output our value. Now it inputs or it brings to it the if condition again. So it now says, okay, if loss is less than 0.2, print target accuracy reach, stop early. So what is it saying? That, okay, if loss is not 0.2, continue to run. But if the loss becomes 0.2, stop and print out target accuracy reached, stopping early. So now let's run this. In the first, you note that we have start training here. As soon as you have start training, for epoch, loss in enumerate. So that means it's going to be showing each of the epoch, okay? Epoch 1, loss in enumerate is going to show the loss values. So for each of the epoch, this is the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, 51. So it's going to run its output, but as soon as it hits that loss function or loss is less than 0.2, it will stop it. Okay, so here, if loss, okay, so here loss is 0.9, is 0.2, is 0.72. So when it says that it's less than 0.1, is 0.2, which is 0.1, it ends or it stops. But it will never stop if we did not give a condition that it should stop. So if this is this, break, and that's why we have break here. So break means that, okay, when you see this condition, break. So when you see break, that means it should stop. And that is the while loop. So the condition will continue, or the looping will continue until a specific condition is met.